Hello and welcome to Out Motorsports. We get asked a lot how someone can go from doing typical track days with their street car with an instructor riding shotgun, full interior, that sort of thing, to full-on going racing. Wheel-to-wheel, door-to-door racing like you would see with IMSA or F1, but with your buddies at local racetracks. You've all seen our friend Taylor's quasi-restoration of an E21 BMW 320i, but what you may not know is Taylor's also been building a race car for the National Autosport Association's Spec 3 racing class. He bought my old street car in 1995, BMW 325i, and while he's gone through our high-performance driver education program, he's been working on building it out to the rules for Spec 3, which is a 1993 to 1995 325i racing series. Now, all of Taylor's efforts to build the car and do HPDE have culminated in one day of competition school with NASA Mid-Atlantic. Competition school with NASA is a fairly intense one-day program that takes place, in our case, on a Friday, and it comes after a year or more of doing HPDE with NASA. It's kind of the final step in the whole process, and it's an 8-hour day that's made up of drills and exercises in the car and classroom sessions out of the car. A written test on what's found in the rulebook kind of rounds the whole thing out, and if you did well on that one Friday, you will pass, get your racing license, and go racing Saturday morning with all your buddies. Now, the race cars seem to know that it's a pretty demanding day, and of course, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Many of us, myself included, didn't actually finish the competition school in the cars that we brought to the track. We ended up borrowing some stuff just to get through the day. Taylor, of course, also dealt with that same experience, but in his case, things went a little more sideways for a variety of reasons, and he experienced what some might consider a full season's worth of racing ups and downs in one day. So here's how Taylor's competition school with NASA Mid-Atlantic at VIR went down.
I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun's in my heart and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with the rain, I've got a smile on my face. I walked down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing and dancing in the rain.
Cold, wet, nervous, but I think I'm ready. Just apprehensive about all of it. Rebuilt the motor, suspension, finished up stuff with safety, new nets, new belts, new seat. Mainly it was the engine rebuild because I dropped the valve last year, so it's that's what I'm most worried about, is if the motor's going to hold up this weekend.
All right, here I go.
Go ahead, 12. Sounds good.
Make sure you get the whole coverage and everything. Just leave it on there. Don't worry about trying to wipe it off.
Yeah, it was bad. It was so bad.
And where'd you go off 10?
No tree.
Oh.
So we were doing a left side drill, right? So then my windshield was so fogged up that going through Oak Tree, I couldn't see the flag stand coming out. So before I was going into Oak Tree, I would look out my window to see the flag stand before I turned in. And normally that'd be fine, but since it was left side drill, when I looked back, I was on the left side of the track and my tire went off.
As Taylor went back to the classroom, Tyler and I fixed the slightly bent BMW with drywall screws and a variety of zip ties. Taylor and the green 122 made it back on track for most of the day, though the car was down on power more and more with each session. Finally, the sun did come out and it was time to practice race starts. Following this, it was time for the egress test, in which drivers had to start fully buckled and get out of the car in 15 seconds or less. As Taylor struggled to solve his power problem, I offered him my purple M3 for the final session, a fun race with some of our seasoned racers. Missing the fun race would mean failing the school. Started, Taylor held his own and got his bearings in the M3. Partway through the race, a full course caution was thrown, which led to a single file restart. After the restart, even with heavy and somewhat hectic traffic, Taylor's awareness kept his nose clean. And then, approaching the top of the roller coaster and through no fault of anyone's, it happened. The black 2.2 Honda Challenge car on Taylor's left snapped an axle, lost traction, and went off on the driver's left side. Taylor pressed on and was unfortunately in the perfect spot for the 2.2 to catch traction again and make direct impact with the driver's side of the purple 404. The sun rose over the front straight of VIR, and Taylor woke up on Saturday morning with his provisional racing license in hand. He and Tyler labored to get the green 122 back to fighting shape as my purple 404 was down for the weekend. Back to full power, Taylor ran his first ever Spec 3 qualifying session on Saturday morning.
It went well. Came out at 6 a.m., took the DME out, checked to see that the Spec chip was installed properly, and checked some grounds and things like that. And went out for the warm-up session, did all right, but the car still misfiring pretty bad. And I came back in, and a couple Spec 3 folks came over and lended a hand without me asking. It was really nice of them. And we ended up borrowing a DME from another car, swapped it over, found out that the crank sensor was bad, and it just so happened to be that I happened to have a spare. So about an hour later, we had that installed. The car's running fine, besides the pieces that are falling off. Well, I qualified better than I thought I would, so 6th out of 8 people in the class. And then the race, I was a little worried about the standing start, but I ended up doing a 20 or 30 foot burnout and passed the guy that I bought my car from. And then had a lead on him for all of 5 seconds, and he took it back. And then from there on out, I pulled away from the people behind me, the people in front of me pulled away, and I just focused on finishing the race with the car intact. And yeah, and I guess there was a DNF, so finished 5 out of 8, which I'd say is pretty good for my first race. So.